Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
Good evening. It's Monday, March 28th. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Better roads and highways, more help to combat homelessness, and a new port of entry at the border. Those are just some of the things San Diego leaders are lobbying for right now in Washington, D.C. KPBS reporter Kitty Alvarado has the story.
A delegation of over 170 local and regional San Diego elected officials, business and nonprofit leaders went to our nation's capital to lobby for infrastructure dollars. The yearly trip is organized by the San Diego's Regional Chamber of Commerce.
These are big city ideas, right?
San Diego Mayor Todd Gloria said in a news conference they have dozens of meetings scheduled with federal leaders to make the case for the urgent needs of the region. He and several other delegation members already met with Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg.
The conversation that Chair Blakespeare and I were having this morning with Secretary Buttigieg was really around not just shovel ready, but shovel worthy, and kind of the notion being that we want to plan for projects that are going to have transformational change.
Catherine Blakespeare, the mayor of Encinitas, who is also on the SANDAG board, or the regional government's planning agency, says funding a third port of entry in Otay Mesa is a top priority for the delegation.
We know that California and Baja California are home to the busiest land ports of entry in the Western Hemisphere. Border wait times have significant impacts on our region and are causing challenges for both our economy and our air quality, and also quality of life for everybody who lives in the area.
Gloria says homelessness and affordable housing are also at the top of the list.
Let me be extremely clear. In a nation, state, and city as wealthy as San Diego, California, United States, we shouldn't have any homeless people.
He says securing funding for HUD, new housing projects, and housing assistance will not just help shelter the more than 8,000 San Diegans who are on the streets now, but also help the more than 1 million people who are rent insecure and families live their American dreams in San Diego.
We want people who are hard work, contribute to our economy, to see a future for themselves in San Diego. That is economic prosperity. That is success. And that's why we're working so hard to bring both the infrastructure and housing dollars back to San Diego.
Gloria said members of the congressional delegation have secured over $107 million in the latest budget to fund community projects. Kitty Alvarado, KPBS News.
The records just keep breaking when it comes to gas. The average price of a gallon of regular gas in San Diego County climbed another 0.2 cents today to just a record high, just above $6.01 per gallon. This is the 34th consecutive increase and 9.3 cents more than we were paying just a week ago. It is $1.17 more than we were paying a month ago. Another set of increases were triggered after a Yemeni missile strike on an oil storage site in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia on Friday, and that could mean even more increases to what we pay at the pump. The Biden administration is making it clear it is not calling for regime change in Russia. The clarification comes after remarks by the president during a speech overseas. Here's reporter Chris Nguyen.
As Russia intensifies its missile strikes on Ukrainian cities in the west and the east, heavy fighting also continues in the south, where the mayor of the port city of Mariupol has called for a complete evacuation of the remaining population. A weeks-long siege by Russian forces has flattened the city, leaving an unknown number of civilians dead and forcing hundreds of thousands of people from their homes. Intense fighting also continuing in the suburbs of Kyiv, as Russian forces attempt to establish a corridor around the capital to block supply routes, according to a Ukrainian defense official. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says he's ready to accept a neutral, non-nuclear status as part of a peace deal with Russia, but any agreement would have to be put to the Ukrainian people in a referendum.
This was the first point of principle for the Russian Federation, as I recall. And as far as I remember, they started the war because of this.
Meanwhile, President Joe Biden triggering a political storm after going off script during a speech in Poland.
For God's sake, this man cannot remain power.
White House officials and Biden himself now trying to downplay the remarks, saying he was really arguing that Vladimir Putin can't be allowed to exercise his power over neighboring countries.
It was expressing my outrage. He shouldn't remain in power. Just like, bad people shouldn't continue to do bad things. But it doesn't mean we have a fundamental policy to do anything to take Putin down.
Chris Wynn, KPBS News.
The son of former San Diego County Republican Party Chairman Tony Kravarik engaged in misconduct. That's according to a Marine Corps investigation into whether Victor Kravarik, a reservist, tried to join a neo-Nazi group. The Marines wouldn't reveal what exactly they discovered in their probe of the 21-year-old Kravarik, saying only the investigation concluded misconduct had occurred and the command has taken disciplinary actions. The Marines say Kravarik was already being processed for a potential discharge for misconduct unrelated to white supremacy. K through 12 public schools across California are already struggling to come back from COVID, and they could lose hundreds of thousands of students by the end of the decade. KPBS education reporter MG Perez has more on the big enrollment drop.
School is in session this week across Poway Unified. That means money, along with the learning happening in these classrooms. Poway Unified School District is among the lowest state funded in San Diego County, and it's not getting better. So making sure students get to class is critical to keeping the lights on and classes staffed with qualified teachers.
Because it flows with inflation, then we hit these years where funding is reduced, programs get cut, and the pendulum swings. So it's always a challenge.
The state is projecting K through 12 public school enrollment in California will drop 9% by the year 2030. That means losing more than 500,000 students in the public school system. Look at the numbers in the Poway district. In the 2019-2020 school year, there was a total enrollment of 36,514 students, just as the COVID lockdown started. A year later, that dropped by 900 students. And just last month, it was at barely 35,000 students, a total loss of 1,460 in 2 years. Poway school officials say the reasons include transfers to other districts or to private schools, and families leaving the state for more affordable living. For about 100 years, California has funded districts on how often students show up for school, instead of a total head count of all the students who are enrolled. But the funding formula isn't working anymore for many districts. COVID made it worse. Right now, state legislators are considering a bill that would replace the average daily attendance formula with total enrollment numbers each semester. That could bring in an additional $3 billion in annual state funding for schools to use for attendance incentives. In smaller districts like San Ysidro schools with just 7 campuses, the financial impact is immediate as attendance drops along with state funding. 30% of this district's children are unhoused.
These are the very children that need more resources. They need their resources for not only the social emotional learning, but for food and shelters so that they can have a more stable home life.
San Ysidro and Poway are closer than might be expected when it comes to student enrollment dropping and families who just can't afford to call California home anymore. MG Perez, KPBS News.
A former appellate judge in San Diego is now the first Latina to serve on the California Supreme Court. Patricia Guerrero was sworn in today by Governor Gavin Newsom. She said it was an honor and a privilege to assume her new role and recalled her roots as a daughter of immigrants from the Imperial Valley.
I am here because of the courage, the sacrifices, and the struggles of my parents and my grandparents. They came to this country knowing that it would not be easy for them. But like so many others, they came here with hope. Hope of a brighter future for their children.
Latinas make up nearly 20% of California's population, but until now have not been represented on the state's highest court. Grocery workers in Southern California have voted to authorize a strike against Ralph's, Vons, Albertsons, and Pavilion, but they're not walking out just yet. KPBS reporter Alexander Nguyen tells us what is next.
To make a living in San Diego, and I think everybody needs all the perks and benefits that they can get.
Catherine Nelson shops at this Ralph's in Chula Vista and would support the strike if it happens. Workers are asking for a raise of $5 over the course of 3 years. Nelson supports that. She says groceries workers have been through a lot in the past 2 years, and it's expensive to live here.
I think it's probably fair, considering the price of housing here in San Diego anymore. Even out here in Chula Vista, it's just skyrocketed.
It's part of the reason why members of the United Food and Commercial Workers rejected the store's offers of a $1.80 raise over 3 years. Of the members who voted, 95% approved of the potential strike.
But they have to understand we're serious. And again, we're not asking to get rich here. We're just trying to get our members taken care of.
Todd Walters is the president of the local UFCW. He says the minimum wage has caught up to the salary of members who've been with the company for 20 years or more. Now, the strike does not mean that you'll soon see picket lines at your local stores. Both sides are scheduled to return to the negotiating table Wednesday, but the union says the strike could soon happen if the companies continue to drag their feet. Ralph's has started advertising for temporary workers in case of a strike. The store says they are working toward an agreement that is fair for workers, shoppers, and allows them to remain profitable. Ralph's earnings nearly doubled between 2019 and 2021. Meanwhile, Albertsons, which also owns Vons and Pavilions, saw a 16.5% increase over the same period. Alexander Nguyen, KPBS News.
Sport fishing boat owners were worried about the air quality regulations proposed by California's Clean Air Agency. Some said the rules would put them out of business. But KPBS reporter Tanya Thorne tells us a compromise has been reached, and it's being called a win-win for all.
Sport fishing boat owners are breathing a sigh of relief after the California Air Resources Board reconsidered regulations on commercial fishing boats. CARB wanted boat owners to upgrade to newer, less polluting engines. But boat owners argued the new technology wasn't available or couldn't be installed in many of the older sport fishing boats. Ultimately, the regulations could have put many small businesses out of business, or the cost of the upgrades would trickle down to the consumers. For months, Ken Franke, the president of the California Sports Fishing Association, was asking CARB for a compromise.
Sure enough, they came up with one pretty consistent with what we had been proposing in the beginning.
Franke says CARB leadership flew to San Diego and met with boat owners to discuss options.
And actually came down and met with the boat owners, got on a boat, saw how the boats operate. Because if you're fishing along the coast on a boat, the boat gets anchored, the engine gets turned off. The presence of the vessel doesn't necessarily mean the machinery is operating. And they started to get a good understanding of what we do and how we do it.
Franke says there's approximately 193 commercial fishing boats statewide, and most have already worked towards upgrading to cleaner engines.
Since 1998, half the fleet have already upgraded to Tier 3, the best engines that are available, the cleanest ones in the world that we have available to us right now. And the rest of them are in plans going to that. So this is the best model that'll reduce all the emissions.
During CARB's board meeting last week, members voted unanimously on new regulations requiring vessel owners to upgrade to the next less polluting engines available on the market by 2024. A review will be conducted in 2024 in hopes that zero emissions technology for sport fishing vessels may develop. While Franke says boat owners are happy with the agreement, he says the real winners here are the consumers.
The winners in this, frankly, are the folks that don't have the money to own a boat. The kids groups, we have kids groups totaling several 100,000 kids that we've taken out on these boats at no cost to them. First opportunity to go in the ocean, experience it, learn about it. All of our ocean laboratories, our veterans groups, our disabled groups, all these people that we've reached out to, that we've worked with all these years, all their programs get to stay intact, giving them accessibility to the ocean at a reasonable cost. That's the big thing, at a reasonable cost.
The Coalition for Clean Air said CARB's new regulations could save over 500 lives by reducing toxic emissions. Tanya Thorne, KPBS News.
A welcome sight in the midst of a record-breaking drought. Rain falling across San Diego County. It's part of a late-season storm that first hit the Bay Area, then moved south through the state. And this may not be the last we see of the wet weather. Meteorologist Jessica Pash has your forecast.
We're still looking at a pretty dreary and chilly day on Tuesday across much of Southern California, but the good news is that it's the last day. By Wednesday, we're going to be warming up again, and we'll see a calmer pattern beyond the middle of the work week, with no storms incoming our way anytime soon once this one exits. Temperatures tonight getting down into the low 50s in Oceanside and Escondido, getting down to 47 in Ramona, low 50s in Borrego Springs. Still have the wet weather here overnight with us. And then on Tuesday, it's a chilly day, likely with some showers still lingering between Los Angeles and San Diego for our Tuesday. Beyond that, though, it's going to be all about the warm-up. Temperatures likely in the mid-60s in Oceanside, El Cajon getting up to 64, upper 50s in Ramona, 70s for you out towards Borrego Springs. And then, as I mentioned, Wednesday, the warmth begins to make a return. The sunshine begins to make a return, too. And all the wet weather and the unsettledness and the gusty winds push more towards the interior southwest. Let's look ahead to the next couple of days here near the coast. Temperatures in the mid-60s for you, not changing a whole lot, warming up a little bit as we head towards Thursday, and some of those clouds will certainly be breaking on up. Further inland, temperatures here going from the low 60s on Tuesday into the upper 60s on Wednesday. May see a little bit of a drop there Thursday back into the mid-60s, but then beyond that, Friday and Saturday, we look to warm up again with some of those morning low clouds likely breaking for sunshine in the afternoon hours. In the mountains, temperatures go from the low 40s with some rain on Tuesday back up into the 50s and upper 40s from Wednesday to Thursday into Friday and Saturday. Not a whole lot of change here from day to day. Sunshine, generally calm winds here moving forward. A couple clouds mixing on in, but again, no more rain beyond Tuesday. And as we look ahead to the deserts, temperatures here going from the 70s to close to 90 as we head into Wednesday. And then beyond that, low to mid 80s for your Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. For KPBS News, I'm meteorologist Jessica Pash.
The Biden administration is expected to give Americans over 50 the option to have another COVID booster shot. The New York Times is reporting the decision could come next week. The FDA was expected to consider the additional booster shot proposal on April 6th, but new studies from Israel provide new evidence that a fourth shot offers enhanced protection. Experts say technically a fourth dose is currently available for anyone who says they need one because they are immunocompromised. There were nearly 1 million vacant IT jobs in the U.S. last year, according to federal employment data. That's a problem for tech companies, but an opportunity for IT professionals in Mexico. KPBS border reporter Gustavo Solis explains how Tijuana is becoming more than just a manufacturing hub.
Maritza Diaz is the founder and CEO of iTijuana, a company that connects American businesses with Mexican tech workers. Her clients are mostly companies based in San Diego, and all of them seem to be having the same problem.
But I can tell you, every time I ask my potential customers, what is your biggest problem? It's no longer the cost. The biggest problem is just able to hire. They don't care where and how they want to hire because of all of this acceleration. Particularly here in California, when we compete with the big tech of Googles and Facebooks and AWS, it's almost impossible for mid to small companies to hire because every software engineer wants to go work there in the big tech. And it's not just the brand, it's also the salary.
Diaz says everyone is struggling to hire software developers right now, particularly small to medium-sized companies who keep losing talent to tech giants like Google, Facebook, and Amazon. Traditionally, the tech sector has relied on countries like India and China to fill the labor gap, but Diaz says companies no longer need to go that far.
And for us, being in San Diego, in this beautiful area, when Tijuana is only 20 to 30 minutes down the road, it does not make any sense to go to India or to go to China or the Philippines or anywhere but here.
Tijuana offers several advantages. Developers are highly trained, their salaries are half of what companies would pay in the U.S., and they avoid logistical hurdles that come with hiring people from half a world away. iTijuana recently opened offices in a high-rise right in the middle of Tijuana's upscale Chapultepec neighborhood. The lobby features marble floors, and the offices have views that overlook the city. The company started in 2019 and has already produced roughly 700 engineering jobs. 2 of those went to Rachel Reyes and Andre Patiño. Both of them graduated from Tijuana's Universidad Autónoma de Baja California, or UABC, in 2020. They were able to find tech jobs within a year.
Well, I think there's a lot of opportunities here in Tijuana.
That was Reyes, who started as a trainee and now develops mobile apps for a biomedical company. Patiño likes the fact that he gets to collaborate with developers based in San Diego on a daily basis.
So when you actually start working with people from the USA or from India or for different places, you start to learn from them and they start to learn from you. So it's a really fun thing to collaborate with different cultures and different environments.
Both are aware that they're getting paid a lot less than developers who live in California. But they say Tijuana's cost of living is much lower, so for them it evens out. Plus, Patiño says their education is way more affordable.
I've heard the stories of people taking years and years to pay their student loans. Mexico is way more accessible. We don't pay nearly as much as the US does in university, but I do think they do a great job at teaching us.
Diaz doesn't see the US labor shortage getting any better in the short term and thinks Tijuana has the potential to become Mexico's next big tech hub for a couple of reasons. First, the sheer number of job openings means that visas for skilled labor are no longer viable. The H-1B visa program is capped at 65,000, which is not nearly enough to fill the gap. Plus, companies can save a lot of money by hiring in Mexico.
When you bring the worker here to the U.S., you're now paying U.S. salaries, right? I don't see any reason why companies need to apply for visas like that when they can actually drive 30 minutes and be there and have hundreds of engineers in Tijuana.
For young Tijuanenses, this means an opportunity to have a career in tech without leaving their hometown.
Well, I think it can go way big, so I think there's definitely a lot of room for improvement, but the potential is there. So I think with the right focus and the right work, we can get it to grow into the next big tech hub.
Gustavo Solis, KPBS News.
It was the smack seen, heard, and being talked about around the world. Actor Will Smith taking the stage to assault comedian Chris Rock following a joke made about his wife Jada Pinkett Smith. Reporter David Daniel with the latest on the Academy Awards altercation.
I'm out here. Richard. Oh, wow. Wow.
It was the slap seen round the world after Oscars presenter Chris Rock made a joke about Will Smith's wife, Jada. Smith returned to the stage to claim the Best Actor Oscar for King Richard, with a speech that seemed to encompass both his on- and off-screen roles.
Richard Williams was a fierce defender of his family. I'm being called on in my life to love people and to protect people and to be a river to my people.
Jessica Chastain won Best Actress for The Eyes of Tammy Faye and summoned her character's trademark love and compassion for LGBTQ people.
For any of you out there who do, in fact, feel hopeless or alone, I just want you to know that you are unconditionally loved for the uniqueness that is you.
Al Pacino, Francis Ford Coppola, and Robert De Niro drew a standing ovation, capping a tribute to the 50th anniversary of The Godfather, while show hosts Amy Schumer, Wanda Sykes, and Regina Hall took the usual shots at politicians, the nominees, and the industry.
This year, the Academy hired 3 women to host because it's cheaper than hiring one man.
Several winners made Oscar history, including Troy Kotsur, named Best Supporting Actor for his role in Coda.
This is dedicated to the deaf community, the Coda community, and the disabled community. This is our moment.
And Best Supporting Actress winner Ariana DeBose from West Side Story.
A queer, openly queer woman of color and Afro-Latina who found her strength in life through art. There is indeed a place for us.
Billie Eilish is the first Oscar winner born in the 21st century, winning Best Original Song. And Jane Campion became the 3rd woman and the 2nd in 2 years to win Best Director.
I love directing because it's a deep dive into story.
yet the task of manifesting a world can be overwhelming.
That was The Power of the Dog's only Oscar win out of 12 nominations, while Coda went 3 for 3. In addition to Kotzer's win, Sean Hayter won Best Adapted Screenplay, and the small film about a child of deaf adults won the night's biggest prize, Best Picture.
You guys have made such a wonderful and loving family on screen, but also off screen, and everybody want to be a part of it.
In Hollywood, I'm David Daniel.
I'm Judy Woodruff. Tonight on the NewsHour, we speak to the Kremlin spokesperson about Russia's ongoing conflict with Ukraine. That's coming up at 7 after Evening Edition on KPBS.
The San Diego Humane Society has launched a 10-day mission to help displaced pets from Ukraine. Humane Society President Gary Weitzman, who's also a vet, is traveling to Poland to give medical care for animals and set up a border-crossing veterinary clinic. The organization will also make arrangements for more animal care staff to support pets affected by the war. The Humane Society is joining greater good charities that's already on the ground helping with the effort. California's most famous castle is set to reopen to the public. Hearst Castle in San Simeon will be back in May after a 2-year closure due to the pandemic and severe storm damage that prompted a $13.7 million renovation. The renowned estate, which overlooks the Pacific, was built by media mogul William Randolph Hearst. It includes a 115-room main house as well as guest houses, pools, and cultivated gardens. The castle sees about 850,000 visitors each year. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Good night.
Has been made possible in part by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.